Why would anyone want to be collecting Pokemon cards right now when prices are looking like this for brand new product? Though before I get into today's video, I'm actually gifting this iconic Gold Star Umbreon re-edition from Celebrations. Now to know if you won, if I reply to your comment with this exact Moonbreon emoji, then congratulations, this card is getting sent your way, and I always pin the winning comment once it's been selected. Now also, if you are new here, my name's Phil. Feel free to subscribe to be kept up to date with Pokemon cards, Pokemon investing, and general discussion around collectibles. However, there's something that needs to be said, and that is Pokemon cards are at a point that they need to drop heavily in value. And I do think this is going to benefit us all because longevity of any TCG is very important. Longevity is one of the most important things to make everything work. I mean, I've invested decent amounts of money into Pokemon, right? Though that's because I have the confidence and the years of knowledge back that it provides solid returns. I mean, right now I have such high confidence, and so far I really haven't been proven wrong. Though that may change if things aren't dealt with quick enough. Now also, I just want to thank you all who participated in my live break, as it was actually a heap of fun, and we actually ended up pulling some straight up fire on the stream. It was actually way more enjoyable than I thought. Now, because of the success from the first stream, I've actually added some new products such as Surging Sparks, Crown Zenith, Paldean Fates, and you can even buy a whole Terrestrial Festival booster box or even a Japanese 151 booster box. The live break will be on the 6th of February at 3 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, and the best part is I'm actually offering a 10% discount code. However, it does have a limited amount of uses, so it's kind of first in, best dressed. The link to purchase some packs for the live stream is in the description of this video. I can't wait to see you all there. Now, as I was saying, right, longevity is important for Pokemon cards, right? Now, there is something that I'm very confident on, and that is that nearly everyone collecting Pokemon cards today collected cards in one way, form, or another as a kid. I mean, it's very rare for an adult to randomly pick up collecting Pokemon cards with zero childhood associations. In fact, even if some adults didn't collect Pokemon cards as kids, it's likely they still collected sports cards and then they just transitioned to Pokemon collecting. The main point I'm really trying to make here is that collecting is something that becomes ingrained from childhood, right? Though the issue at the moment is that a lot of the young and upcoming generations are just totally priced out. And I mean, parents are really unlikely to spend more than retail price for cards. So this can actually curb the core memories that are made during that younger period, right? But more so, the current market also brings in a different kind of character into Pokemon collecting and investing. And I think that's the discussion that needs to be had. The longer this bull run market lasts, with people not being able to access product, the longer that different character begins entering the hobby. I mean, what do we want to call this person? I mean, let's just call this person the hype beast, right? Now, these are the trend kind of fiends, right? They just want to go in to enter the hobby. You know, they buy at inflated prices and they create this artificial hype rather than genuine demand. I think one of the best examples of this is the Charizard Hyper Rare from the last bull run era. I mean, check this out, right? Here is that Charizard VMAX, which I want to take you through how the journey went when the last kind of bull run of this hype happened, right? Because we had this vintage hype, right? And everyone was just coming in, and vintage was the biggest booming thing. And then Champion's Path came out and everyone wanted the hyper rare, rainbow rare Charizard, right? And it was the most in-demand card. Literally, that was the card that everyone was talking about, right? Though I am seeing this weird similarities with what's happening with that Charizard VMAX and the amount of hype and all these people who collected base set Charizard, and they came in and they were just like those hype beasts, right? That character came in. Check this out. I'm on PSA's official website, right? Just want to walk you through this. So you can see when this released, I know it might be hard to see here, but you can see this was selling in October 2020 for around 1,950 US. We keep going. You can see the price points, you know, around 890 US. You know, it's selling for, you know, 799. You can keep going, 770. This was during 2020 to 2021, right? You can see it was holding this kind of price point for a long time. Even in March, it was selling for 810. What is it selling for right now? You can see here the last sale points are 305 US. $306, you know, even finding a low of $217 for a PSA 10. This card was super hyped, but what happened, right? It's really important to understand this. Sentiment changed because the Charizard VMAX, right, was the Rainbow Rare. It was like probably the most iconic card during that time period, right? With Champion's Path, it was the chase card. But right after that, only a year later, what was introduced? Alt arts with battle styles. And what happened then? The community sentiment changed. People didn't want hyper rares anymore. People wanted alt arts. And then the newfound demand for alt arts happened. And that's the problem with this field, right? Things can come in and completely shift the trajectory, right? And that's something that we need to be aware of when we're dabbling in this hobby. We need to be careful. And why I speak about this and why I go this, I am not going to be that kind of creator that just goes, go, buy, bull run, everything. Pokemon's going to the moon because, hey, newsflash, guys, we're collecting shiny cardboard. And when we're collecting shiny cardboard, risks are there, right? So you need to be pragmatic when you're buying these cards. Do you love collecting it and do you love enjoying it in your collection? Great. You kind of pull yourself out of what everyone and this kind of FOMO and this hype, and you kind of look, you take a step back and you realize, hey, I'm collecting shiny cardboard. Yes, it's expensive. Yes, it's desired. Yes, it has great things and it makes me feel a certain way. But at the same time, it's important that you understand that so you don't make stupid decisions during these bull runs. I mean, moving forward, this market needs to crash so younger people can have access to product. Right now, I mean, look at this Pikachu from Surging Sparks, right? Right now, this is selling for whatever it is, 484, currently selling for 485 USD, right? Sure, this card right now is very hard to get and it may not drop. I'm not going to say it's going to drop. I'm not going to say that it's also going to rise in value. We don't know the answer for where the future for this card holds, right? Now, maybe in 20 years from now, most kids right now collecting won't be able to create the association with this card. When we look at Charizard base set that got those crazy values, almost everyone you knew had a Charizard base set or a Venusaur base set or a Blastoise base set. It wasn't this thing where, you know, most people you knew or you would have had one yourself. The problem was no one actually looked after them, right? These cards in these days, it's actually harder to make those childhood associations with them because those younger generations probably won't pull this card. Here's the thing, maybe there will be some tech millionaire that in 20 years, you know, did their research on Pokemon cards and they want to buy this card. But the reality is, right, it's important that those core memories and fundamental memories get made during this period, right? One area that I'm actually cautious with where Pokemon is heading at the moment is you don't want to have a situation like Yu-Gi-Oh, right? Where Yu-Gi-Oh is so lost right now because the only people that collect Yu-Gi-Oh anymore are older fans, right? People who played Yu-Gi-Oh in 2002 to 2005 to 2010, and now they're kind of left with all those older fans. So they're just kind of losing fans at this point, right? Yu-Gi-Oh's trying new things. They're trying to add in Rush Duel, right? They're trying to appeal to younger audiences. They're trying Speed Duel. It's all failing because Yu-Gi-Oh completely didn't nurture that younger crowd, right? They just said, wow, these people that are spending money, we're just nurturing these people with money. And guess what happened? Now Yu-Gi-Oh, they're like saying, hey, where's the longevity of Yu-Gi-Oh? Because I can tell you one thing right now, everyone that's like really collecting Yu-Gi-Oh or really into Yu-Gi-Oh are between the ages of like 27 to like 40 years old, right? What's going to happen when that demographic completely fizzles out and you don't have a new younger generation entering? It's going to be really tough. Now, Pokemon isn't in that position right now at the moment, right? Pokemon is still the hottest thing with kids. It's still so desired and all this, right? But if you're just getting these hype beasts buying out stores and Prismatic Evolutions, and you're hearing stories of people putting like, you know, whatever it is, 20 to 30 boxes on trolleys and walking out, or Blooming Waters, what you're effectively doing is you're making this kind of thing where it's just like a thing of, it's kind of becoming like the sneaker community, right? Pokemon cards at the moment. And no one, like the sneaker community, you know, it's kind of gross, bro. Like it's just people fighting over these shoes and they're punching on, and exactly what's happening with Pokemon right now is exactly what the sneaker community's like. Now, this is kind of why we need the market to calm down and we need Pokemon cards to be able to be accessed by a lot of people so we get those core fundamental memories. Because if you are investing in Pokemon cards right now, you really don't want to have a situation where it's all 50 or 60-year-olds in the future just arguing over the same and trading over the same Pokemon cards. You kind of want to have that thing that a lot of different generations make their kind of own memories with what's going on. I mean, seeing here right now, we can even see some of the prices that kind of need to be shifted, right? This Umbreon from Prismatic Evolutions, right now it's selling for $1,561. Really expensive, man. Now, there's also another issue with this, and this is what I really speak about. This card hasn't even had the time to become iconic. What I mean by that is Umbreon VMAX has had so many years to get up to the price point that it is today. This card just kind of entered the market, and it's kind of, yes, it is very much a self-fulfilling prophecy. Umbreon's expensive, so this is going to be expensive as well. Though I do think it's just too quick, too soon, in the sense that we haven't had that kind of real nice establishment for it to get to this price point. Just kind of got released and it said, hey, this is the price it's selling for. But even other cards are raising right now in value. You can see the Gardevoir from Paldean Fates. This was only selling for $44 in October. You can see right now selling for $95. More than doubled in price, right? Now, actually, while talking about this Gardevoir, right, something actually really interesting happened the other day, right? So I got a message from a channel viewer, and they said that they'd like to send me this CGC 10 pristine Gardevoir from Shiny Treasure to be gifted to one of my viewers. Honestly, I was actually in disbelief at their generosity, and this is a massive display of the amazing community we have. So feel free to join the giveaway. You can actually enter on my channel's Discord server. The giveaway bot is in the giveaway section. You can find the invite and participate in the description of this video. Now, another one that seems to be climbing with no end in sight is the Umbreon VMAX. Though I suppose this one makes more sense than the Prismatic Evolutions Umbreon. Main point being is that it has had years to create this kind of aura around it, okay? It's had years to get to that level, okay? Prismatic Evolutions Umbreon is a little bit, for my liking, a little bit too quick, too soon. But you can see here, I mean, let's pull this into the year graph just so you can see how this card's traveled, right? If you bought this last year, this card was selling for $539 USD in February. It's kind of crazy to see that this card was selling for that amount, because now nearly every card that's releasing, all the chase cards are already exceeding those prices or near that, right? If you look at a lot of the special illustration rares from Prismatic Evolution, a lot of them are approaching that price point, and even the Pikachu from Surging Sparks is already pretty close to that. And mind you, this was one of the most expensive modern cards for such a long time, right? But now you can see how this has traveled. This kind of went, towards the end of the year, was selling for around $926, and right now selling for $1,700 raw. Wild, man. I think what's going on right now is people are kind of thinking it's a now or never situation. Fair enough. You know what? Look, an Umbreon VMAX, I talk about this a lot. Maybe this card will have a hard time dropping in value, but that's because it's become so iconic. It's such a top chase card of Sword and Shield era. So maybe this one is going to have a hard time dropping too much in value. But some of the other cards, they definitely could use a little bit of a, like a... Moving forward on eBay, right? You can even see the PSA 10 Giratina from Lost Origin. Check this out, man. 43 bids, sold for 1,775 USD. This one sold for 1,700 USD. Very high price points, man. These price points are crazy high, dude. Like, very, very expensive. Very interesting. Though, again, I guess these make a little bit more sense because it is a PSA 10. It's got all that than some of the other price points that we're seeing. Though here is probably one of the more interesting ones that I've seen, right? It's the PSA 10 Gem Mint Latias and Latios GX Alt Art, right? Sold recently for 5,100 USD. Wild price point. Look, though it is quite a rare card as well, but you can see the price points of these cards and what they're getting. Sun and Moon era is climbing, man. And is this just a new standard that we're going to be dealing with? It is interesting though. Though check this one out as well, man. This is super interesting. The Umbreon has sold in PSA 10 for $5,432. So this is obviously a brand new card, a little bit overinflated, but you can see the Latios sold for 5,100 and this one's selling for 5.4K. What's really interesting about this is, okay, sure, the population of the Prismatic Evolutions Umbreon would be far less than the Latios and Latias at the moment, right? When we're looking at this, the Latias PSA 10 has a population of 1,650 copies. Now, obviously the Umbreon is nowhere near that at the moment. Though I can tell you right now, with the amount of reprints that they're saying Prismatic Evolutions is going to have, with the amount of these cards going to be sent in, this population will probably go, well over 10 to 15,000 in PSA 10. So, the Latios and Latios makes more sense to get that price point. But, when we're actually looking at it, the Sun and Moon era are rare cards, whereas these modern cards, I don't know how rare they are in compared to some of these Sun and Moon era cards. I think there's going to be a lot of interesting things that happen within this hobby. So, appealing to those younger audiences and making sure that they have access to product is important for the longevity of this hobby. And that's why I do think the market does need a serious correction at the moment. Though more interestingly is, where these franchises and where they do things really well is when you appeal to those younger generations and you create those fundamental memories. In marketing, it's all about recycling, right? So yes, you get those fans, you want to nurture those older fans, but you also want to go into those younger generations to create new fans that get kind of pulled into the cycle, right? So you can see, like I mentioned before, Yu-Gi-Oh really struggles with this, right? But Pokemon's actually quite good at that, right? But then when you look at Dragon Ball's actually really good at that too. So Dragon Ball had Dragon Ball, which, you know, had a younger generation. Then they released Dragon Ball Z, brought in new fans, and they maintained those fans as well. Then they did Dragon Ball GT. But now what have they done, right? They've also now got Dragon Ball Daima, which is where Goku and all of his friends turn into kids. Now, what's so good about this is because, yes, this appeals to the older fans, they get a little bit interested, but also these kind of adults and all these people can introduce Dragon Ball Daima to kids because they're going to probably be more inclined to watch, you know, Dragon Ball Daima than they would Dragon Ball Super, right? It appeals to, you know, younger kids. And that's really good because you keep the franchise alive. Now, I think one of the craziest things right now is the amount of silly mistakes being made by newcomers entering the hobby. Right now, there's a lot of small mistakes that are costing collectors a lot of money, and the mistakes that you should always avoid can be seen right here within this video here. Within this video that's appearing on screen, you'll be able to see some common Pokemon investing mistakes which can cause issues for newcomers. Click the video that's appearing on screen and we'll talk more about it there.